Hey folks, welcome back. It's a big barn build. It's a new year and we've got new walls. So stick around and let's get building again. So a bit of start, we've got the insulation down in that cavity, DPC, got the sole plate down, that's the first one, we've got a double. This is basically a solid wall which is going to create that snug room in the corner and be the end to the garden room we're in now. We're taking up the sheeting, we were protecting it but this is so hard now and cured that I don't think there's too much risk of damaging it, and also it's quite nice to let it dry out because it was just pooling and stuff on top of all the sheets. Once the wall's built, we'll probably put it back down again, but there's almost no point until we can get that opening sheeted up and weatherproof, or windproof I should say. Everything was just getting destroyed. Alright, we're almost done with the stud, so what we're doing now is getting the top timber done that's going to sit up against our steel, and we're just cutting a little slit out of it to get around one of the little brackets. But apart from that, we're going to try and lift this as one. No openings at all, so straightforward wall to do. We'll get it up, it's going to be slightly shorter than the full length, so then we can get it up and slide it in. Like we've done elsewhere, we'll put a DPC between the metal and the timber. We also realised we needed to get some OSB here to sit this wall against. So we pre-insulated this cavity either side of the steel. It's got some PIR on the outside and then just some mineral wool filled. So if that whole 300mm cavity is now fully insulated, it would have just been a bit too fussy and we wouldn't have quite known how well it was going to fill when we do the blown in insulation. So that section doesn't need to be done. Then when we get to these, we're back to normal. After yesterday's rather soggy start to the day and floods and everything, today's a bit brighter, and the main thing is no wind. So the biggest improvement we can make today before we carry on with the actual framing is to get some more protection on this. Managed to find out some kind of carcassing timber. I'm going to put a batten along the bottom here and just frame up every metre, put a stud, and then we can get some of that sheeting up, and then we'll be protected and cosy. We've now started running in the blocking up at 2.4 to 2.7 metres. That's so we can hang our ceiling joists or ceiling timbers. Everything else is full height, so that's going to get blown in, all the insulation. So we're going to do that, just a couple more blocks to go, and then this wall is almost ready to sheet, and we'll be doing the wood fibre board on the outside first, and then we'll do all of this green OSB at the same time. Remember, that is an external wall for us, even though it sits underneath or on the inside of the building. Thermally, that's all being treated as an external wall. And then we've just got to build this little nib here before the sliding doors start. So it's just an extra 100mm off the edge of this glue lamp. And then Tom's over there and he's prepping up the equivalent wall on the other side. Should be the same dimensions, it's just got a big 3-metre sort of French door opening which goes through to the kitchen. You got it. Fine, Jeff, anyway. Oh, it's a brick on it.
So there is.
That'll be the.
There is a fixing.
That'll be the one. Right, back on it. Today we are making a start on the kitchen wall lintel, then we're going to start on the big sliding door lintels. Tom's nipped off to drop his van off at the MOT place, so I'm going to see if I can get this lintel done before he gets back. I mean, he's 2 minutes away, so I probably won't, but here we go, let's get it up. Well, there we go, that's the main carcass of it done. All in I-joists, which is nice and simple, should be light to get up there. Doesn't need to be glue lamp, it's kind of partially internal, this one, and it's non-supporting. So we're just basically offering support for the little bit of wall above and just holding its self-weight above the glazing. Now I realise, and I've been told off in the comments, but also by my godfather and my dad and other people watching the video, that I might be skimming through some of the terminology, and that's not because I'm a know-it-all, that's because I've just got used to talking that way because I've been the one ordering stuff, not through years and years of experience and knowledge. But I will try and slow things down a little bit and explain the materials a bit better. I know I was going to do a full-on framing breakdown of how we're building, and I probably will do that still, but let's just quickly talk through the materials so you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about them. I'm sorry you're on the GoPro at the moment because it's so cold the battery's died on the other one. So right down the bottom here you can see we've got LVL, and I believe that's laminated veneered lumber, which is basically a fancy name for plywood. So that is a 300mm wide board, and the reason why we're using this or glue lam is because it's more stable and it's also able to be made in 300mm width and you're not relying on finding solid timber that wide and that stable. It's also much longer in length, it comes in 12-meter lengths. So we've got that at the bottom. That's just our sole plate, which is being fixed down into our blockwork, which is got a footing underneath it. And then on top of that, we've got a double sole plate, because we're putting the first one down, fixing that down, and then we're framing our walls on the floor and standing them up. And by fixing the first one down means that when we stand it up, we can then just attach our wall units to that timber nice and easily. So we end up with those two. They're sat on a DPC. DPC is this stuff here, which is a damp-proof course, often found within brickwork, but in this case it's isolating our timber from our blockwork. Our blockwork actually has another DPC in some form further down, in that it's got our thermo blocks in, which are almost like a DPC, but we still need this anyway. And then moving on up, we get to our eye studs. Now, eye studs, or they're more likely to be known as eye joists, are an engineered version of a ceiling joist. Or you could use them as roof timbers. So where you would normally have I don't know, an 8x2 or a 10x2 or something like that, these, in this case, are 12 inches, so they're 300 millimeters. And they would be like this, sat in hangers or on walls, and you would have them at your regular centres, and that would be what you put your floorboards on for upstairs. And in just a few weeks, we've got 150 of those to put up here to create our mezzanine and ceiling joists and things like that. But for our build, for our house walls, we decided to use them vertically as studs. And that's becoming more and more popular in high performance homes, because it gives you the ability to fill a whole 300 millimeters full of insulation, and it also means that you've got less thermal bridging. So rather than having a really thick timber all the way through the wall, you've only got a very small, thin, I think it's 9mm web, and because of that, you can almost rule that out as a thermal bridge, because by the time it's got through half of that insulation, it almost becomes so much part of the insulation as far as the temperature goes, you don't really lose any temperature through there. I did see some sort of article on that, or some report someone had done, which is quite reassuring, because the other option is to do a double stud, but normally those double studs are done like a Larson truss, which is where you have two studs and some steel plates to kind of hold the two together and some blocking. This is an easier way to go, because it means we can cut them anywhere. We don't have to worry about cutting through plates or anything like that. And then the final piece of the recipe is the glue lam. Glue lam is just short term for glue laminated, I think, which is when you create timber from smaller pieces, basically like a kitchen worktop. In this case, we've got these 45mm staves, which are glued together, finger jointed at the end. You can see some of them. And again, you can get these in 12-meter lengths. You can get them in all sorts of thicknesses. We used them in the cabin to create our ridge beam, a pair of them, and they were much wider. And you can get these things absolutely massive. We could have engineered all of our first floor in glue lam, for example, and done away with the steel beams. The glue lam would probably then be on show and become a feature of the building. We're doing some oak and stuff, so it doesn't really fit this building. But if you look at large portal frames like this barn, some of that is now done in glue lam, and it looks amazing because it's a much more natural way of building, because it's using timber rather than steel. But also you can still do massive spans with it, and it's actually more of a quantitative way of measuring the strength of the timber. If you imagine trying to do big spans with regular timber beams, there's always defects, and there's a lot more grading that needs going on. Whereas if it's laminated full of C24 timber, you know the strength of it, and you can plug that into your software and work out these spans far more accurately with glue lam versus solid timber. And I guess while we're firing through all these acronyms, we've also got OSB, which many of you will know, but it's almost a form of plywood, but it's called OSB, which is orientated strand board, I think. Which is when you take loads of small pieces, chippings and not sawdust, but small pieces of timber, and you compress them down from, I think it starts off as a real big mat of timber, and they're compressed down and bonded into sheets of OSB. So in our build, we've got OSB in the form of the web of these, which is jointed into our flanges, these timbers here. Or for our walls, we've got 12.5mm OSB, which has been pre-finished with our vapor and airtight barrier. And that product is called Smart Ply. There you go, Smart Ply Airtight. One of the big benefits of all these engineered timbers is there's very little waste, because, for instance, the sawmill that makes all of these I-joists, James and Sons, who are actually supporting these videos and have become a sponsor on the channel, they will do all their timber work, and they make a lot of CLS and things like that, and all their waste goes straight to an OSB manufacturer, and they can create boards and products from the waste. Or, you know, there might be biomass or other things. So very little, because if you imagine if you're just relying on solid timbers, when you cut a tree down into solid timbers, you end up with a lot of waste. And of course that can still be reprocessed into other things, but this is a really timber efficient way of building. Now, I don't know if that's answered all of the questions that have been coming up, or all of the unknown mentions that I've been doing, but that is certainly what we're using for the wall. And when we get to the floor, I'm sure there'll be other products and other jargon to work through. Oh, and Tom's back and I haven't finished. I'm getting told off now. Well, there we go. That is the first 3 days back on the build this year, and we've done okay. It's taken a little bit of time to get back on the rhythm of things and just tidy the place up and get all set. However, we've now almost got the sort of makings of our indoor garden room, and well, we've got some big openings. And the exciting thing is we now have a sort of proposed date for getting the glazing in. Still a few months off yet, but that's just something to work towards now, because there's still a lot we need to get done, including building a whole first floor. However, let me give you a little walk around of what we've achieved this week. So we started over here on what is a relatively straightforward wall, albeit that it's an angled sort of pitched head to it. That's all fixed to the steel, and then we switched over to the opposite side of the room, which is the kitchen wall. Bizarrely, I was a little bit concerned during the design process that this opening was going to be quite small, and considered doing a big slider here as well. Actually, 3 meters is wide enough. This is going to be a French doors, so kind of French patio doors, but it's going to have fixed glass either side. And what I've done is configured the opening sashes or the opening doors to be even spacings with the glass either side. So hopefully those doors should be able to fold back on 180 hinges onto the side glasses and be out the way. They're not going to open and just stick into the room either side. So that's what we've gone for. We could have done bifolds, we could have done sliding. There's various options, but all those things cost more. I think the most cost-effective option for there was French windows, and really they're probably more airtight than anything sliding anyway. Now we have got lift and slide doors going behind here. They're big lift and slide doors, and there's a whole load of detail on that we're going to have to go into when it comes to the glazing, but they're very high performance airtight doors, and the way that they work, rather than having brush seals or kind of gaskets, they lift and then drop in and seal tight against the frame. Which leads me on to our last wall, which is not really a wall, but it's some jack studs either side, double jack studs. They're connected to that steel in the middle, pre-insulated everywhere, and then our box lintels up top, which are also pre-insulated. So we're good to go now with our little stud wall above there, which is the bedroom, master bedroom. There is more glass to go up there, and I'll be talking about why we've got glass in those places in the next video, because it's a little bit of future proofing and also a bit of a legacy from a refused planning application. So it's quirky, but I think it will work well. As always, a huge thank you to James Jones and Sons, who are sponsoring some of these videos about the framing. They're the clever ones that manufacture these eye studs and eye joists and the engineered timbers. So huge thank you to them, and I will give you a link that you can follow down if you want to find out more info on the products, or indeed, a bit like us, if you need to send across span tables and things to a structural engineer so that they can see how it will work within your design, then you can do so, because it's really detailed, and we were able to basically substitute solid timbers for engineered timbers using those tables, which is all good. So I'm going to leave it there. Hope you're enjoying being back on the build with us. We're going to keep kind of ramping up the content and getting back in the rhythm and things. We do have some farm videos going out on the DIY farm channel as well. But there we go. Hope everyone did have a good Christmas and New Year, and you're all back on the treadmill of DIY. Gotta love it. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself. We'll see you next time.